Most guys don't even see it happening. They're out here thinking effort equals results. Thinking if they just show up enough, say the right things, reply fast enough, she'll choose them. But the truth is, they're operating on a logic-based system in an emotion-based game. And that's why they lose. Because they don't understand what's pulling her attention, what's really keeping her thinking about a man. It's not how much he gives, it's what he withholds. It's the space he creates, the mental gap he leaves open. That's the Zeigarnik Effect at work. When something is unfinished, the human mind fixates. It wants to close the loop, solve the puzzle, finish the thought. Now take that and apply it to attractions. Suddenly you've got a weapon most men don't even know they're holding. When you leave a woman with an unresolved emotional interaction, when you walk away before the moment is done, when you stop the conversation right before it peaks, her brain keeps replaying it. Not because you're magical, not because you said the perfect line, but because her mind hates incompleteness. She starts filling in blanks. What did he mean? Why did he leave like that? Where did he go? You become the itch she can't scratch, the open tab in her mental browser she forgot to close. And that's where obsession begins. It's not about being perfect, it's about being unfinished. That's what hooks her. Most guys wrap everything up neatly, hoping she'll feel secure. But that's not what she remembers. She remembers the one who didn't finish the story, who left her suspended in thought, whose energy she still feels without explanation. That's the psychological edge you play with when you understand this effect, and once you get it, chasing women becomes unnecessary. You pull them in without force. Chasing is the default mode for most men. The moment a woman pulls back, they lean in harder. They think effort is how you prove value. So they send longer texts, try to extend conversations, double down on compliments, in the hope that consistency will be rewarded. But here's the harsh truth. It almost never is. Especially when you're dealing with a woman who plays hard to get. That kind of woman isn't looking for effort. She's testing your emotional balance. She's watching to see if you'll lose your center and start chasing the way every other man does. And most do. They fall for the frame she's setting, not realizing they're being pulled into her script. What flips the dynamic is the one thing she doesn't expect: you pulling away at the peak. Most guys don't do this. They ride the wave of attraction until it dies. They don't understand emotional pacing, but when you do, when you see the momentum building and you walk away intentionally, you send a signal she feels. Her nervous system doesn't know how to process it. She was expecting more, expecting you to push harder, but you didn't. You stepped back when the moment was just about to hit, and that shift creates tension. That tension becomes a loop in her mind. You didn't reject her, you interrupted the story. And that's powerful. Now she's left with questions. Why did he leave then? What was he about to say? Was there more? That's where desire grows, in the gap between what happened and what could have happened. When you control that rhythm, when you don't always ride every high to the end, you become the one who controls the frame. Not with words, with restraint. That's how you become unforgettable. Texting is where most men lose all the ground they built. They come on strong, reply instantly, write long messages, and keep the conversation alive even when it should have ended. Why? Because they're afraid of silence, afraid of seeming uninterested, afraid that if they don't keep feeding her attention, she'll forget about them. But that's the exact mindset that kills attraction. What you don't realize is that tension, not comfort, is what drives emotional investment. And nothing creates tension like the right kind of silence. When used correctly, it becomes a tool of influence more powerful than any clever line you could type. You don't need to ghost her. That's not the move. What works is pulling back mid-thread in the middle of momentum. Let's say you're having a fun exchange. She's laughing, texting back quickly. The rhythm is on point. Most guys would ride that high until it fades. But you understand the Zeigarnik Effect. You know the value of leaving the loop open. So you stop. You vanish right before the resolution. Not rudely, just deliberately. And now she's staring at her screen, rereading your last message, wondering what happened. She starts checking her phone more often, waiting for that ping. She starts crafting a message to keep it going. That's when you've shifted the frame. Now she's chasing the resolution. The emotional gap you created becomes a mental hook. You're no longer just another guy in her inbox, you're the one she's thinking about when her phone is quiet. It's not about being clever. It's about emotional control. About knowing when to pull back and let the silence speak. Because in that silence, she hears her own curiosity echoing, and That sound is louder than any word you could type. Most men think the Zeigarnik effect only works in early attraction, like it's some trick to get her attention at the start. But the truth is, it's even more powerful after you've already got her. In a relationship, things tend to settle. You become predictable, available, emotionally transparent. And while that feels safe, it slowly kills attraction. Why? Because the moment she feels like she fully knows you, the mystery fades. And once that mystery is gone, the emotional tension that made her crave you disappears with it. That's when women start pulling back, not because they don't love you, but because they no longer feel you in the same way. But here's the fix. You reintroduce the unfinished. You bring back that subtle edge, that sense that she doesn't completely have you. You stop explaining every thought. You stop texting just to check in. You stop always being there the second she calls. Not in a cold or distant way, but in a disciplined way. You allow space. You hold parts of yourself back. You become emotionally honest, but not emotionally predictable. That's how you restore polarity. She starts wondering again. She starts asking herself questions about you. She starts feeling the tension that once pulled her in, because now, she's emotionally invested in decoding you again. That's the beauty of controlled mystery. It doesn't just attract new women, it reignites the one you're already with. Long-term desire doesn't die because time passes. It dies because the emotional dynamic becomes too certain, too finished. But when you reintroduce the unknown, when you leave just enough space for her imagination to roam you, make her fall in love with you all over again. Not because you changed, but because you became unresolved again. And that's what keeps her hooked. Being remembered isn't about being the nicest, the funniest, or the guy who gave her the most attention. It's about being the one who left a mark she couldn't fully explain. That's what the Zeigarnik effect does. It turns you into a mental loop she never closes. The man who didn't give her all the answers, the one who walked away the one who made her feel something but didn't wrap it up with a neat little bow. And that feeling, that unresolved emotional thread, that's what sticks with her. Long after your messages fade, long after other guys try to impress her, she remember you not for what you gave, but for what you withheld. That's the key. Don't rush to be understood. Don't offer your full story all at once. Be selective, be intentional. Let her work to understand you. Because the moment she thinks she's figured you out, you lose your edge. But if you leave just enough unsaid, just enough unanswered, her mind stays on you. She replays the interaction. She rewrites the ending. She builds a narrative around who she thinks you are. And in doing that, she becomes emotionally invested without even realizing it. This isn't manipulation, it's masculine discipline. You're not tricking her. You're respecting the natural tension between masculine mystery and feminine curiosity. You're inviting her into your story, but you're not giving her the final chapter. That's the difference between being a moment and being a memory. Most men get remembered with a polite smile. The man who understands this gets remembered with a pause, a heartbeat, a quiet "why did he leave like that?" And that pause becomes obsession. That question becomes desire. And that's how you stop chasing and start being chased.